Welcome to another video series of the Lighthouse Wisdom. And the intention is to introduce folks to new therapy modalities that exist and that I am trained and certified in. And sharing the philosophy. And today I would like to share with you something that I formally got introduced in 2018, and 2019 is when I entered into getting trained in the modality, and it's systemic theory and family system constellation. So family constellation work is what I would like to share with you today, and it will be a 3-part video series, and I'm using a presentation, like a format, to share with you the wisdom, the foundational wisdom of family constellations. And then I would also, in the last video, also show you some scenarios using figures. And so this is, and as I'm getting ready to share it with you, I also want to say that this is one therapy method which, unless you come and experience it firsthand, it would still be a concept, because what happens in the program or what happens in a workshop or in constellation is so phenomenological, in the sense it is so in the here and now, and as it opens up in the body, that it's quite mind-blowing. Okay, so for me, what systemic theory and family constellation wisdom and philosophy really gave me is finding this agreement within me to my unique place on earth. And it is not like a static, it is every moment of, with every step, with every breath, again coming into this coming into this agreement, coming into my own place on earth. Yeah, so it's like when you're riding a bicycle, you know, there is a movement, yeah, and it's a constant balance. Yeah, so this movement of going this way and this way, so there's so balance being a continuum. So it's not really balance, but you are in this movement, and it really supports you to be that, to locate that in the body, and to live that on an every moment, everyday basis. So how does it do that, and what is this wisdom? That's what we're going to explore. So before I begin, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the family constellation lineage of my training, my teachers, and of course it begins with the founder, with the person who actually cognized this method or came into this method, and that's Bert Hellinger. He passed away in 2019. I mean, I would invite you to actually read up about this, how this method came to him, but it's quite fascinating that he didn't start doing constellation or this work until his 60s. So he was trained in all therapy modalities. He began his career as a young, priest, a Catholic priest, who was then, as part of his ordainment, was sent to Africa, where he was there for, I think, close to a decade or more than that, to teach English and impart education. And that is where he came in contact with the native people of that land, the Zulus, and, because he was working with them, and something about being there and the land, and all of this kind of had a very deep impact in his own relationship with God and religion, and, opened up a lot of questions and explorations, which kind of, when he came back, he came out of being a priest, and then trained himself as a family therapist, and there was a times when all the modalities were kind of therapy modalities were beginning, and so he really trained himself, transaction analysis, Gestalt, so many of those modalities at that time that Bert himself's group dynamics, and through this work, so he would keep working with people, and then when something opened up for him that was conflicting, he would take this period of silence to really go deeper into it. And I think the spiritual aspect of being a priest and the theologian that he was, and his whole training in that also kind of really supported him to go and approach all of these in a way that was very different from psychology as such. So and I think I mean, whether it's Eastern, I think there was a lot of learning and openness in Bert. And it was in the early 60s that he kind of started doing this work, where he found there was something that he was becoming present to. Yeah. The morphogenetic field, and he was becoming present to nature and its orders, and he was seeing how things move in systems and in group dynamics. There was an order to everything. And so this work, that's how constellation work really came into a place. And then he would just continue doing this work more and more. And the two of his students, the earliest students who were working with him, they actually followed him, recorded him, and wrote, transcribed his philosophy, and created the very first book, which is called Love, Seed, and Symmetry. And that book is available. You can download it on the internet. It is absolutely phenomenal. Read, because it's the very beginning, it's the very initial philosophy, and then the work deepened with soul movements and spiritual conscience and all these. So it's quite a very humbling philosophy, and which is not, there are no shoulds here, and it is really that everything can be placed in the field. So we don't have to have a notion around it. When you place it in the here and now, it speaks for itself. It shows, it reveals itself. So that is kind of a method that came through him. And it's pretty phenomenal that we have something like that. And one of his early students was Colette Green, and Annie and Colette. And Annie trained with Colette, and Annie is my teacher. So Annie and Colette, they created this training program in India, which is Spanda, which is Bangalore and Ochre Island, from where they both live. And so this training, I got trained in 2019. Actually, you can really see the year as well. So this is from my graduation day. And so I'm deeply grateful. And as I am sharing this wisdom with you, I know that every day on this journey, this wisdom keeps deepening and informing so many aspects of my life and relationships. Yeah. So I want to really start with the story. So one of the ways that Bert really also taught and spoke is that he said a lot of stories, and these are beautiful stories. And this particular story is from Love, Seed, and Symmetry, and it's one of the first stories that comes in the book, and it's called The Answer. And for me, this story is the foundational philosophy of entire constellation and our longing. It tells something that is over the last 3 or 4 years, this story and its meaning has deepened for me, and I know it will continue to deepen. And the story is about freedom. I think when we are children, when you're really young, we look at those older to us and we wonder, oh, they are so free. They can do so much. I am not allowed to do that. When we reach there, then we still realize, no, I'm not free. You look at the ones a little bit older and you look at them and think they are so free, right? So this keep continuing. You reach, where do you reach? So this freedom, this movement, or this tussle with freedom, or wanting freedom. And what is freedom? And is there freedom? Where is really freedom? Is freedom in the doing? So what is freedom? So that is what this explores. Yeah. So I wanted to share the story as our as something that through this whole presentation, I would keep inviting you to come back to the story. So a disciple asked his teacher, tell me what freedom is. Which freedom? So isn't that interesting that the teacher says, which freedom? As if really, is there freedom, or what freedom are you talking? And it's not in what, which freedom is what the teacher says. The first freedom is foolishness. It's like a horse that throws its rider with a triumphant whining, only to feel the saddle girth pulled tighter. So it's this freedom of the horse, which is being ridden, thinks that it could go anywhere, and it could do whatever it wants, and then there is a pull, and it realizes, oh, I really can't, and it feels that girth pulled tighter. So this is the first freedom, which is foolishness. And the second freedom is remorse. Okay, remorse is like the helmsman who goes down with the ship after he has sailed it onto a reef, rather than seek safety in the lifeboat with others. So this is very interesting, because remorse, guilt, regret makes us do strange things in life. Like the guilt is such an interesting emotion or sensation in the body, and to what extent someone can go to not feel it. So that is the second freedom. The second freedom, when we are beginning to realize it, it hits us and draws us back like remorse. And here I always, when I watch the film Titanic, I remember the captain. I mean, anyway, this is not a great example because no one really survived the Titanic. But even otherwise, not wanting to escape, or having this very much guilt to the extent of atonement and dying. And so this is the second freedom. And the third freedom is understanding. And understanding comes, alas, only after foolishness and remorse. It's like a shaft of wheat that bends in the wind. And because it bends where it's weak, it endures. So this is very interesting. So this understanding, so some understanding starts happening around freedom, and it only comes after foolishness and remorse. So that is a stepping stone. So we will meet this freedom of foolishness and freedom of remorse. And then something dawns, which is understanding, where we know that there's a bending and vulnerability. And I see this bending as vulnerability. The disciple asked, is that all? And the teacher said, many think they are seeking the truth of their own soul, but it's the greater soul that is thinking and seeking in them. Like nature, it allows great variety, but replaces with ease those who try to cheat. But to those who allow it to think in them, it allows in turn a little freedom, helping them like a river helps a swimmer cross to the other shore if she surrenders to the current and allows herself to be swept along. Just swim, the ability to swim and to surrender to the current. And in that surrender to something in nature, we experience freedom. So this freedom is a very interesting thing. And in constellation work, as you keep going deeper and deeper. These are things that you can't even explain, because the minute you try to explain, it disappears. So it's very much in your body that this freedom slowly starts making itself known. So yeah, so if this is what you loved for today, and this is all that you want to watch, that's wonderful. Yeah. And I'm going to continue this journey with family constellation work. Yeah. What is family constellation therapy session? So a family constellation therapy session, it really addresses issues that emerge in our present life by bringing to light hidden dynamics, yeah, within our family system. So it looks at whatever is happening today, be it relationship with money, with people, with events, with feelings, emotions, physical sensations, disease, children. It looks at in context of our system, yeah, family system. And we look at that. What is that? What is family system, and who consists of that, all that? But that's where we look at the hidden dynamics. Who are we playing this out as? Yeah. And so what does a family constellation therapy session or a workshop consist of? There's a helper, so a facilitator of the family constellation is called helper. There's a seeker or a client. So we never usually in constellation work, we don't say client, we usually say seeker, because someone comes seeking something with a question or a longing. And then there is a group that forms the holding circle and represents in the client's constellation. And we look at what that even means to represent in the client's constellation. And sometimes we don't have people, we don't have a group, it can still be one-on-one. And instead of people, we use figures. So this is again something that we use figures of people or things, and that's what we use to constellate a client's issue or a client's question or longing. Yeah. And I have to also say that constellation is not based on a solution. It is really based on looking at what is here, what's there to see. And this is where we need to understand the underlying philosophy of constellation. Oh, before I go there, I want to also kind of introduce you to the series. If you haven't watched the series on Netflix called Another Self, and I would very much encourage you to go on Netflix, and it's a Turkish series, and it's beautiful, and they really, really did justice to constellation philosophy and the work, and really does open up like that. It is that real as is shown in the series. Okay, so yeah, so I wanted to kind of share this. And so now, what is the core philosophy that guides constellation work? And that is systemic. Yeah, and what do I mean when I say systemic? This is what it is. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Yeah, so just take a moment. Means when the parts don't really reveal the whole. So the whole is always greater than the sum of its parts. So there's so much more in the whole than we can ever fully know. Yeah, and constellation wisdom really, we are holding a part, we're longing for a part, and it really starts reveals us all the other parts, the missing hidden parts of this whole. And we're beginning. So with every constellation work that you do for yourself, the whole picture, your whole picture keeps shifting. So it's so constant. You never have the whole picture. The whole picture just keeps deepening and expanding and opening. And that also creates expansion and depth and openness within your own insight. Yeah. Another example that I can share with you is from permaculture. And I love nature. I feel nature is the example for everything. And this method itself is based on nature's wisdom. So in nature, if you look at any piece, so this in permaculture, the web of life is so important that you don't mess with it. So even though we think this is how, we don't really see the whole picture in what's happening in nature, in the growth of a plant and its flowering and its fruiting and its harvesting. We can't eliminate what is there. Things that may look to us that they are harmful may not really be harmful. They are serving a purpose. So a food forest is designed to link food crops together in a web of life, similar to that of other forests. So here, this example is of a plum tree, which may take up to 5 to 10 years to mature. And with care, it can produce plums, right? For decades. But to just get there, all these different things that are part of its journey, right? So like the pollination of flowers or the flowering of the tree and the ladybugs and the lace wing larvae that are protecting the budding fruit. And, so there are seed bugs which save leaves from leaf hoppers. So there's so much happening, the way water is conserved and the things that are there on the land cover, which allow water to be saved and go deep into the roots, and what supports the roots, what nourishes the trunk, what allows the branches to spread. There's so much happening that we are not quite clear about. And in a modern way of agriculture, we kind of isolate everything. We use artificial fertilizers, we use artificiality into this, and we destroy something that has existed forever. The wisdom there is existing forever. We try to eliminate one thing and it causes chaos and so many other things, right? So this whole picture, to always stand back to get the whole picture, that we really, just by taking one part and thinking that's it, we miss this interconnected web of life. And constellation work is very much supporting us again and again to get this view, this whole picture. And so this is where I kind of want to bring attention to systemic theory. What is systemic theory? And this for me is very phenomenal, that we are not independent, but we are interdependent beings, and we are relational, interdependent. We have an interdependent relational existence on this earth, and our earth itself is an interdependent, interrelational existence in this solar system. So in the sense that we are within layers and layers of systems. So when you pick apart, I mean, there's so many aspects to that part already. When you pick apart, it is actually the end points, the middle point, the start points of a zillion others narrative which is there in that. And to see the picture, we really have to move back, step back from it. Yeah. And that is so important. So this is what is systemic theory? And for me, we often forget that we are a part of the Milky Way galaxy. So this itself, the galaxy, there's another system that's happening here. Yeah, it's not just us here. There's a whole system. So like if we do the macrocosm, there's the Milky Way galaxy, within which is a solar system. And in Indian astrology, we really consider from the very birth of life has influence of all these planets. So these planets are not just seen as something, dead, but they're seen as very alive celestial beings and who impact a certain aspect in us. So, so in that sense, they are all part of our influencing our earthly existence. Yeah, and in the solar system, Earth is one of the planets. And this Earth itself is a very complex, alive organism. Yeah? There's so many layers to the biosphere of our planet, this blue-green, amazing planet, and it is all interconnected. So this whole Earth biosphere, inwards and outwards, is interconnected. on this earth, there are so many species, from elemental to microbes to single cells to multi to so such diversity exists here, and there are so many species here. And in all these species, we are one species. Human being is another species who is in existence to all these. And in fact, we are the youngest species on this planet. Everyone else has been here for billions and billions of years, right? And we have created our own system. So human beings have created their own systems. Yeah, no other species distinguishes land, names land, and demarcates land and divides land, and I mean, not in that way that we have. So we have created this whole, like, this is a human, the earth, land looks like that. This is how we see, when we see earth, many of us, we will see earth like this, like, the countries and the continents, and where we are, in my country and their country, so we have, this whole is one system. Each country here is a system. Within each country, there are now towns and cities and villages, and within villages, there are colonies and communities living together. So there is such complexity if you look at it. And within even human being, based on where we are, which class, caste, ethnicity, region, religion. I mean, the complexity of our human life is so complicated, right? And so complex. And here, every human on this planet is part of a family system. And so that means they have parents, and the parents have their own parents, and they have parents, and there are siblings, and there are kids, and there's so many stories there, and even a human system. And if you go even further, if you just take a human being, within our own body, there are so many layers of systems that are working together. And even if one system is compromised, many times you will see that it affects everything else. And someone else has to do more of a job, and that might create a fatigue in that part of the organ, and something else takes over. So there is forever a movement of working together. Even in our own body, everything is working together. So these layered systems, and in the systems, all these parts are forever in relationship to each other, and they are supporting each other. Some of these is conscious and some of this is unconscious, but this is happening. Yeah. So the whole picture of a person is often invisible. We never, even for us, even for me, my whole picture is often invisible. Sometimes it reveals itself when it happens in the moment that, whoa, this has an emotional impact for me, which I didn't realize. And sometimes it's just certain timelines and age and things that open up, right? So we only see parts, and we think that's the truth. So in a way, constellation work also supports you to really see these layers and to expand the truth and to see the layers of truth. Like just in this picture, and where it happened, when it happened, what was happening here. I mean, you don't know, but I know. I know the exact body. I know the sensation. I know that moment. And the layers that exist in this one moment are unimaginable for me, because reality, so much reality has shifted from there, in my own life. And this body itself has shifted immensely. So, sometimes there's so much there that we really do not see. So this is my now question to you, right? What groups, systems, communities are part of your present life? How do you show up in groups? Yeah. Who are you in relationships and within groups? How do you move in relationships and within groups? How do you give and take in relationships and in groups? How do you find your place there? How do you navigate your authenticity here? So this is a very important question to know, because this will also reveal a lot about our own system, our own relationship and movement within our own system. Yeah? And this is where we will look in our next video about the principles of relationships. So when I say these principles of relationships, they are actually energetic, held within the orders of nature. Yeah. However, and they draw us, they pull us, they entangle us, they hide us, when in the unconscious way. So these principles of relationships are forever working in our cellular biology, in our mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual, in this movement. This is happening within and without. And when we become present with, when we can see, feel it, and we can align with its movement, it's like the swimming with the current of our own life, then we are able to flow in life, right? And that is what constellation work really starts revealing. So it's not solely about finding a solution, it's really about seeing, knowing, agreeing to your own flow, your own movement, your own place, your own size, your own timeline here on earth. So this is a question. What are systems foundational to human life? What supports human life to survive? Right? And this is our family system, our generational family system. Like in the web of life, in the permaculture, the root system, a seed that falls into the root system, the foundational earth-based root system, that really decides what happens to the seed, how it sprouts, how it grows, how far it can go there. All of that is really determined by this root system. And our family system, our generational family system, is our root system. And in India, we always have had this belief, 7 generations back and 7 generations forward, like my footsteps here are both determined by 7 generations back and even 7 generations forward, and how I choose to be and show up. And in my movement, I can also impact in the same way. So it is such a phenomenal knowing. And today we know through science and we know through research also that it is really impacting, and things can stay dormant across generations, and certain environments can open it up. So certain tendencies, certain diseases, certain behaviors can even stay dormant in a couple of generations, and then some similar scenarios happen in the environment, and that gets triggered and opened. This is what's called epigenetics. Yeah. So so it's very different from that. There is a gene that causes this disease. There actually isn't. We all have very similar in that sense, not similar genealogy, but you can't specifically say this is it. But the environment is very, very important. So that environment that also determines who we are, who we become, where we go, how far we can go, how we can go, all that is also dependent on our family system as well. That doesn't mean, again, then the question is, oh my God, then is that what my life is? And that's where I bring the story back again about freedom. What is freedom? And after foolishness and remorse comes understanding. And this understanding, what is that? And that's what I think in our life journey, as we mature and as we grow, that understanding starts growing and deepening. Yeah? And so here is a baby. A human child is one of the most sensitive, vulnerable species, because it just, as soon as it's born, it is completely handicapped. It has no way of doing anything. It just exists, right? It doesn't even have an ego, a baby, right? It doesn't have an identity. So slowly that starts shaping up for the child to protect itself. So it takes a long time for a human child. 5, 6, 7, 8, all those are vulnerable years. So in fact, today we know that the brain really reaches some sense of not pause, but some sense of full development is at 24. So till then, we are still developing. We have not fully come into our potentiality. So this prolonged period, what determines us? What is foundational to us? Our family system. So we are born into family system that has already had powerful forces and hidden dynamics with roots in past generations that will continue to impact and influence our lives in the present. So this is a foundational philosophy of family constellation. Okay, and there are all kinds of families, right? So here I have parents, their parents, and parents of the 7 generations, like an image, right? But it's not just parents that constitute a system. There are so many other aspects here, right? Siblings are there, parents, siblings, your siblings, then children, and lives lost, and people who have died, and so we will look at that, what belongs to us. But I just want to show that every family system, generational family system, is so different, so different, so different anywhere in the world. And I've used more of the indigenous or the tribal map, but I haven't really shown images of modern life here, but that's even more complex, right? Our modern life, usually we don't see community, we just see mother, father, and the children, like nothing else exists, yeah? So generational view of a family system is seeing an individual as part of a wider and therefore more complex family group. And it offers up many more possibilities of understanding individual behaviors, family dynamics that manifest in the present generation. Yeah, so I just have a picture of my own family in the sense of my present family right now, my parents, my younger sister, and there are many things hidden here, right? And then my grandparents, my paternal and maternal grandparents, and these are ancestral rituals that we have on my paternal side and my maternal side, which represents the generational system. And so I just wanted to kind of, and there's so many more here, which is hidden, which is not there, but it is still playing out in some way, form, or the other. And what does that mean? As we start understanding and learning to surrender to the vulnerability that this knowing opens up in us, it also allows us to be molded and shaped like the shaft of wheat, that would bend with the wind. And because it bends where it is vulnerable, where it is weak, it thrives. Yeah, so this is also teaching us that. Now, the question is, who belongs to your family system, right? So if you just take a moment, just to sit with that, who is part of your family system? And this is interesting. In India, as just yesterday, I was talking in one of the groups I was facilitating as to how in Indian movies, parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, they're all there. They're chaos, they're part of our films. They're part of our lives. Very alive, right? It's in Western movies, I'm seeing it come now, but otherwise you never see the parents and the grandparents in that way. Some of the most popular series where we only see the individuals and playing out in all kinds of complexity in their life, and we really are not knowing this root. It's like these characters just came out of thin air, right? So that kind of individuality or independence really doesn't exist. Yeah, we are an intersystem. So this is to know who belongs to your family system. Of course, you and your present families. If you're married, your present partner, your children that you have together, they are part of your system, right? And even ex-partners, if you've had a significant relationship, your ex-partner and children from earlier relationships are also part of your system. Yeah? Your older and younger siblings, so your siblings are part of the system, your parents, your grandparents, and sometimes it can even go back generations. And of course, the siblings here, your parents' siblings, your grandparents' siblings, and sometimes depending upon someone having a significant impact in the survival of the system, also gets that sibling, even if it is 3-4 generations back, it can show up in your life. Yeah. And yeah, and your entire generational system. So here I have showed 7 generations of ancestors, but not always they need to show up unless there is something very significant in any of these areas, right? Significant event which completely changed the direction. Because if even if one thing is missing, is not there, you wouldn't be here, right? So it's very significant. And even half siblings. So if grandparents have had earlier marriages before your grandmother came into their life, then the siblings, the kids from those earlier marriages are part. Even the earlier mother, the earlier wife is also part of your system, because if she was alive, you wouldn't be here, right? So her own passing cost us. And all the earlier, so they are significant, and those who come later are also part of the system, right? And family members who are dead. So the system, and within a system, dead and alive are treated the same. And all children who died at birth, who were aborted, miscarried, lost, given away, they are still part of the system. So if you've known yourself as the oldest, and then you come to know that they were early, and you felt that position as such difficulty, then sometimes in Constellation, we just don't ever want to be the older one, just not ready. And sometimes when we do Constellation, we see that there were older kids who were lost. There were children who either got aborted or miscarried. So that person is really true. It's not the older, it's not the eldest. There was others. So finding your place, and then you realize, oh, I can relax. I am not. There are. So this remembrance, in ancient, in my Kerala, in our native, in the old Taravada. So we had these community dwellings in the olden times. Like my mom's childhood is a house full of cousins and her mom's sisters. So it was a maternal kind of living. So she remembers all these people through which she's growing up. Same for my dad. So very different from my life, though I went vacations and met with cousins, but it's very different from living with your uncles and aunts. And it's complex, and yet there is something about moving through relationships and being able to speak up, and all these kind of dynamics are very profound. And all of our homes would have these old homes where many communities and families live together. There would be these pictures as you're in the living room, and as you're into the corridor, there's so many pictures. You wouldn't know half the people, but they were all these older generations, and black and white, fading out whenever camera came into. And these, because I'm sure there was privilege that these pictures could be taken, but the many didn't have this kind of privilege. So I'm even realizing as I'm taking, that's again privilege, because camera came from the outside. It was not something that we created here. So this ability, this must have their own, my own ancestors' interaction with the colonizers and the British. And, so that's how these pictures are still there. But they were always there. And then, you went to your home and you would see these pictures. There's a remembrance, but something you see, so there was a way that we did, and there were ancestral shrines in all homes. All homes had an ancestral shrine. And many times the ancestors were even put there in the land. They were laid to rest. So even in my community of the Nayars, until 60, 70 years ago, I mean, there were burials in the older times. People were buried, not burnt, and the burning came much later. Yeah, so there were burial grounds in the land, and there were ancestral shrines there. So So these are ways that people remember ancestors, ancestral dark moon. Every dark moon ancestors were revered. There were specific days in the year their ancestors were revered. So this movement of remembrance was always there, part of our land. And even family members who are killed or given away, alienated. So just because, there's a tiff or there is something someone does in the system which is completely not in alignment with the values of that generation or family, and that kid is kind of told to go away or get out, and rituals are done. So we have rituals, in India, especially actually we in the Brahmin community that I know in Kerala, Nambudris, that they do have a ritual that's called, they do this ritual and completely say that this system is not part of our line anymore, and they kind of completely cut it off. Then the entire family no longer sees them. And we even have that when a kid goes into sannyas or takes that kind of life, they again do the same thing, and they do that. But that's it's really not possible to do that. We are not that big to do that. So we cannot really chop off and say that from here you are out and discard. It doesn't. They are still part of the system. They have the same place. Their energy is continuously there. It will keep coming back in generations after generations, wanting to give them their place. So these are things that, you cannot really do that. Like in Kerala, the Nambiar community of the Nayars, they were actually Nambudiris. They were from the upper Brahmin caste. So when someone did something that was not appropriate or not in alignment with the rules of the Nambudiri family, they would be disbarred, or they would be disowned, and they would be completely alienated, and then they would become the Nambiyars. They would be downgraded, cut off, and given this title. So within the Nayars, they still feel higher, but within their own community, they are alienated and shamed. So it's interesting, these kind of movements that have happened, these kind of cuttings, and the price people pay for that across generations. Right? So that the thing is, you cannot really do that. It's not possible. We are not nature. We cannot do that humanly with whatever ritual we do. We cannot do that. We don't have that kind of power. We just have to come to terms with that we don't. Secrets also have an energy, and that they become part of systems. So, and these secrets show up differently in constellation. Sometimes the secret wants to be spoken, the secret wants to be shared, and sometimes you do not want to go to the secret, the ancestors. The secret is so powerful that it is a message to the generation that stop looking back, continue your life. You don't need to know the secret. So both work, both are okay. So in Constellation, we're not trying to do something, but we are always looking at what is there and how do we honor it? How do we agree to what is, right? And of course, significant event in our lives that have supported my system to survive. Like if 3 generations back, in my maternal system, 3 or 4 generations back, in a family, in this family of matriarchal family, there were 4 daughters. 1 daughter was kept, and the other 3 was given away to 3 families. And that used to happen in those days. They didn't have family. We don't know why. One of them was my great grandmother, who was given away as a child to another home where she grew up, because they didn't have daughters, and having a daughter is seen as something really powerful because she carries the line, she carries the generation. So this daughter went there, and then she had like 9 kids, and she continued. And her name was given to my grandmother. My grandmother had her name, and something about that, she was the oldest. And I have always have a feeling that this grandmother who was given away to my present grandmother's Tharwad or home, but that is not really my Tharwad, because my Tharwad is still from where my grandmother came. But I got the name of wherever she went. That home is the name that my grandmother got, and my mother has, and I am part of that matriarchal family name. But her original name was not that. But we still go to the original family from where this daughter was given, because there is a whole ceremony that happens there of a maternal uncle that we go to. So many times we go, we didn't even know what that was. And it was during my own journey in women's spirituality and in search of my ancestors, I came to know about this whole thing, that that's what's happening there. And there's something about that older, and I'm older one, and I have had these moments of when I left my home. The pain that kind of opened up for me was very, very traumatic. It is way more than what I've seen anyone, others have that. And even though I love travel, but that movement for me always is very, and this work and this has really eased in that something. And I remembered her, and I remembered her even before I did Constellation. Somehow universally it happened that way in my own life, that I had to remember her. I had to go back to that ritual. It all carried me. My life carried me there. So these, just because she was given away doesn't mean she came to the next family. She was an adopted kid there. Her original home was somewhere else. Imagine that, So these things do have an impact. And in some ways, in these, the thing is, it was still remembered. The original home was still remembered. The name of the family was still, the initials were the same, even though the full forms were different. So they try to keep it that way. So all these things exist. And in India, we have many rituals which we stop doing, or then we feel like, what are these? But we don't realize that they actually keep this order, these principles of relationships alive and functioning, and bring some blessings. And of course, even if someone is not part of a system, they become part of a system if they contribute in a significant way to us. In the sense that someone from another system gave money, gave life, gave up their life, or something like that for our system to survive. They become part of a system in a way that they are. We have to remember them. They are part of our line, right? And when we forget and we enter into some other scenarios with those systems in the present generations, without knowing the past, it starts having an impact, okay? And in the same way, if our family has significantly impacted someone else, it could be both constructive and destructive, even if it's murder or it is of supporting and giving to life. Either ways we get entangled. So these are things to see when we see communities in conflict in big ways in the present times. We need to see what happened here in the past. What is it that they cannot look away from each other? They are so looking at each other like this. What's happening here? They are more connected than they know. Yeah. And what is it to remember these connections and to see the whole picture? What moves in the heart? So constellation work really supports you to start seeing the picture. We don't know what the picture is. And constellation work, that's the beauty of it. That the unknown, without knowing anything, without any intention, the helper can really bring it into the way that it's seen. Yeah, it's seen for the client. It's seen in a way that's very alive and present. And significant earlier partners, even lovers, all these, anything which is of significance, we cannot hide it. If it's hidden, it starts having an energy. It takes space. It takes space. Yeah. And then there are also events like partition was a very significant event on this land. All the invasions that happened in families and communities who fought with each other in wars, who defended, who died, who were killed, who murdered, all those don't go away. We cannot hide them. They are part of systems and they're part of families, so even illnesses, handicaps, drowning, bombing, war, some significant events are when losing mother at birth, childbirth, and mother dies, or when the father dies for the child very young. All these have a very significant impact for that generation, for that child, and then how the child is held, what environment held the child, is going to impact the child as it becomes an adult, and then it impacts everything else. So nothing is missed and cannot be forgotten. It is all alive, right? So there's so many layers here written: immigration, violence, caste violence, incest, abuse. I mean, everything, if it is not fully allowed to pass and really held, and when it happens, remembered and not hidden, they then it moves, then it's part of life, and then it's okay, you know. But when it's not considered as part of life, and when we don't want, when we there is a tussle or there's a resistance to it, it starts exerting a greater force that can be felt, the ripples of it can be felt across generations. And how is that felt is what I would like to, you know, we can see in the philosophy, the principles of relationships. And here I also want to source some of the challenges that seekers can bring to Constellation, and we can start seeing where their roots lie. So, things between children and parents and families and siblings, and so all kinds of relational conflicts can really be seen in Constellation can reveal it, like relationship of parents to children, children to parents, between siblings, between parents, the entanglements, hidden loyalties that keep pulling and pushing us. So all these parents and children, separation and divorce, rejection of mother, absence of father, raising children, difficult children, having difficulty with children, abortions, early loss of parents, siblings, affairs and families, all these we can start seeing it. Where do these roots lie? What's happening? And it brings compassion. It opens up to see that they all have roots to something. They're not independent occurrences, yeah? And issues in couple relationships, this also we can start seeing how where the roots lie. Because two people coming together to form a relationship are two family systems also coming together, and how they impact. So people with family systems who have past histories, in the very past, they have complex histories, in some way, form or the other, will emerge in the present generation. And so unless we make space for it, these challenges can really consume the relationship unconsciously. Yeah. And even health and diseases also show, as orders and disorders in family systems. And we look at, when I say order here, what does it mean? It's very specific to Constellation philosophy. And even conflict resolution, mediation, all these areas, family constellation really plays a very important role, because it doesn't work from the head. We can really place things in the field, and we can see it. And this language, you might be wondering, what is she talking, placing in the field? And we will see that. We will come to that as well. So I'm just showing all the areas where Constellation work can support organizations, business companies. So there are organizational constellations. There are constellations that are done in companies, businesses. There are constellations with nature that can be done. So there are different kinds of constellations that have begun to happen. Astrological constellations, I was part of some time back. And even success in life and relationships, abundance, money, prosperity. I mean, there's nothing that you cannot explore in Constellation. Yeah. So these are all the problems and challenges in Constellation. And so this is where I think I'm going to pause for today. Our original family. Why? Why is family system constellation important? Our origin family is a primary foundational system or group. Okay. And it is the ground. We don't realize how important. So here I have an image from my website that I created just to show, when you see me, that child is also there. All these different timelines are also who are part of me in some way, form, or the other. So, and my system, that my family system or group, that is the ground where I'm born into, we are born into, and that gave us the form to exist and be here. And to survive and to reach adulthood, to be an adult, we have all of that to stay attached to our systems. Whatever our systems, rules were, values were, okayness was, we've all stayed attached. And when we moved away from it, we didn't like it, we had to come back. So we have all navigated this, and then we have moved into adulthood. And so this movement also primes, informs, ingrains an early map of relationship with ourselves and with those around us. And now this map can both be constructive or destructive. It can be growth informed or survival informed. And this early learned map then shows up in relationship with everything, not just a partner relationship, a work relationship. So this group dynamics, we can't really escape it, but we can see and we can become free of these push and pulls. We can, it's not about being free of it, actually, it's about easing, agreeing to it, seeing it, and then something in us stops the fight, stops the inner war. And so this is where for today I will kind of pause. I don't know, I just love this image of this tree with his such powerful root that you can't quite see, but you know that as the tree goes down into the earth, it must have quite a, phenomenal root cover inside, the way it stands. There's something so strong and vulnerable about this picture for me. And this is what I would like to pause today with. Love follows the hidden order of the greater soul. And for love to flourish, you need to do what it demands and refrain from doing what harms it. So this is a quote by Bert. So then we need to know if we all long for love in our life, to really know love, to experience ourselves as love, to experience love in relationships, to experience love in our day-to-day, everyday movements. And love follows certain order, certain hidden order of the greater souls of consciousness. And constellation work in the next video I'm going to share with what is it that this love demands of us, and how do we align with that demand, how do we align with that, and how do we know what harms it, so we can make more and more room to experience love and allow love to flow, not just in us but through us. Allow the love to flow through us as it is coming. So yeah, that's where I pause for today. And I hope this inspires you to go to the next video, which will be about principles of relationships, orders of love and conscience. Blessed be.